Welcome back to Movie Moshow. Today we are going to review the science fiction film, Jumper. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We post multiple times daily. Spoilers ahead. Beautiful Millie, Anna Sophia Robb, who aspires to tour the world, is the object of shy teenager David Rice's, Max Theriault, affection. Bully Mark, Jesse James, snatches the snow globe of the Eiffel Tower that he gives her as a surprise and throws it out onto the cold riverbed. Determined, David steps out onto the ice to recover it while waving. However, he slips and is quickly carried away from the entrance by the rapid current after breaking through the ice. He expects to perish in the frigid water without air, but instead, he finds himself suddenly gasping for air while lying on his back in the library's bookcases amid a massive flood of water. He makes his way home, drenched, where his father, Michael Rooker, scolds him. When David's irate father bursts open the door to his room and finds it chained, there is simply a swirl of wind and David has fled. He realizes he has been transferred there once more when he finds himself in the moist aisle of the dimly lit library. He realizes that he now has a chance to alter his course and leave his predicament, just as his mother left the family when he was 5 years old. He teleports back home and gets a little amount of cash and a few items. However, he makes a stop in front of Millie's house before leaving town. Despite being in her mother's arms, Millie is unconvinced that David is still alive. She cautiously enters the yard after hearing a commotion and discovers the snow globe on the swing set. She can infer that he is still alive from this, but he ignores her calls. The following day, he rides a bus into the city and finds a low-cost place to rent. In the park, he practices teleportation as he gains control over his ability. Then, in the middle of the night, he cases a bank and robs it by teleporting straight into the vault. He teleports back to his rundown motel for another bag and repeats this process until his room is covered in cash and he is lying on a bed of it. He laughs when he realizes his bag is too small to carry away all the money. The enigmatic Roland, Samuel L. Jackson, who claims to be from the NSA, does, however, show up at the bank inquiry and is oddly unsurprised by this locked door robbery. He obviously is aware of teleportation powers and is a member of a strong organization looking to catch this bank thief. After some time passes, David, Hayden Christensen, owns a pricey city apartment that is decorated with images from his travels around the globe and a little vault room that is filled with cash. Wherever they may be, surfing in Fiji, eating lunch atop the Sphinx in Egypt, meeting a girl in a British pub, he appreciates life's pleasures. Instead of stepping even 2 paces, he phases through his house, oblivious to the struggles of the common people stuck in rising floodwaters on television. The entrance of Roland, whose electrical weapon and wires prohibit David from teleporting, disturbs his calm. Roland's life's work, as we learn, is to exterminate jumpers, those who can teleport, because only God should have the power to be everywhere. In his desperation, David finds a method to escape and teleports back to his childhood bedroom. When his father learns of his presence, he approaches the bedroom door and begs the boy to stay. David leaves by teleportation as his father pries open the door. After his peaceful way of life is upended, he decides to visit Millie, Rachel Bilson, his long-lost love. He discovers her working at a bar in the same town. Teddy Dunn, his old foe, manages to start a fight with David once more, and in a hurry, David teleports with him into a bank vault before leaving him there. He asks Millie to travel with him to Rome when he gets back to the bar. Although she is astonished, she can only accept it because it is her lifetime ambition. When they arrive in Rome, he takes pleasure in her excitement as he shows her around the historic city but is shocked when they discover that the Colosseum is closed. He goes around the corner and, when she comes up, he is keeping a gate open to welcome her rather than accepting no as an answer and coming back another day. As they proceed with their private tour, he keeps opening doors from the inside, until they attempt to descend to the stadium's floor. He is startled to run across Griffin, Jamie Bell, another jumper, who tells him that he is not alone and that there are many paladins, individuals who wish to murder jumpers, including 2 of them, who have shown unexpectedly. Griffin is ready to combat their strategies and ultimately subdues the assailants before teleporting away. David asks questions as he follows Griffin's teleport to his lair. He is confused, and Griffin's succinct explanations, such as that he will drop a paladin into some sharks, don't help to clear up his confusion. Griffin explains that David cannot afford to have a girlfriend, family, or friends since they will all be killed by the paladins in order to reach him. He also claims that they are all dead. David goes back to Millie and agrees to go. They manage to elude the security guards within the Colosseum, only to be arrested outside. Millie refuses to return to the hotel when David commands her to do so, but he doesn't jump. David is still being questioned by the police hours later, and they are detaining him and his passport until further authorities show up. A woman, Diane Lane, suddenly emerges and orders him to leave his girlfriend behind while giving him a limited amount of time to go. She is his mother, whom he recognizes from photos of him as a child. He locates Millie, drives her to the airport, and then somberly informs her that he must leave for home without her. David left Mark in a bank vault, and Roland has been brought in to speak with him in the interim. Mark describes who David is, where they are from, and everything he knows after becoming weary from continuously presenting his narrative to officials who are not convinced. Roland takes advantage of the chance to see David's father. When David comes back to question Griffin further, the threat to his family finally dawns on him. He teleports to the house where he grew up and discovers his father lying on the floor. He teleports his father to a hospital emergency room while sobbing in an effort to seek him assistance. Inquiring as to what Mark told Roland, he teleports to visit Mark in prison. Mark claims he told him the whole truth. As soon as Millie steps off the plane in the USA, David realizes that she will be in danger, but when he asks Griffin for assistance, Griffin declines. David tries to persuade Griffin by following him through leaps. Griffin teleports the car through traffic as it suits him after swiping it. They then ride together. They share some information, such as the fact that Griffin's parents were killed by paladins when he was 5 years old and David's mother fled when he was 5. Griffin jokingly relates the story of a jumper who attempted to teleport a building but perished in the process in response to David's question about teleporting the car. Finally, Griffin decides to assist David for a limited engagement. It is obvious from the several portraits of Roland that he has in his home that he harbors animosity toward this knight. When they arrive in the USA, Millie's flight had already touched down an hour earlier. In an effort to get her out of there fast, he teleports to her apartment, but Roland and his attack team show up before he can start to explain. Griffin scolds him for trying to transport her there because Roland can easily follow his teleport, but he succeeds. Griffin gets ready to leave his house, but an epic conflict starts when Roland shows up. Griffin once teleports a bus in Roland's direction, but Roland is able to duck beneath it as it flies by. Roland's electrical wiring has webbed up David and trapped him in a corner of the room, where he will be destroyed later. As Millie frees David, it's clear that she's upset by the circumstances and terrified of his odd talent. She implores him to simply take her home and leave her there. Naturally, she is quickly taken hostage and held captive. Griffin intends to bring a bomb to Millie's apartment to kill Roland, but doing so will also kill Millie and everyone else there. David doesn't want that, so the two of them use teleportation to travel the globe while fighting over the bomb and the detonator. They also appear in a conflict zone where David ultimately captures Griffin using some down power lines that are just as effective as Roland's traps. Returning to Millie's flat, David is aware that he is entering the lion's den. They anchor themselves to the walls and use electric wires to bind him down all around them. David asks Millie to get near to him and, inspired by Griffin's tale, decides to only move the building's components that are connected to the anchor cables. His use of power causes the apartment to vanish out from under the building, which starts to collapse and the roof to fracture. Roland should be thankful that David didn't drop him at the sharks, David tells Roland as he teleports him to a cave and leaves him there. Roland finds himself up a remote cliff in the Grand Canyon as he makes his way to the cave mouth after David disappears. David approaches an upscale residence in the cold and knocks. The door is opened by a young woman, Kristen Stewart, who is shortly joined by David's mother, who sends her daughter to her room. David is there to learn what it all means and why Mom abandoned him when he was a young child. She reveals that she is a paladin and that because she loved him, she abandoned him after. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.